If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we're back. Kind of, sort of back, that is. We've got Jeff MD sitting in the green room, and he can't hear anything that I'm saying. So could somebody in one of the chats, in the Rumble chat, let me know if you can hear my audio or not? How about you, Jeff? Could you hear anything? Okay. All right, Jeff, we've got confirmation that people on YouTube and Rumble can hear me. So I'll jump in, get this started. I'm not sure if Mike Sterling or John's going to join us, and we appear to have some sort of technical issue on Jeff's end with not being able to hear my audio through the studio software. I tried 4 different mics. They all reported that they were functioning properly. Not sure what to say other than let's get started. Hopefully, maybe if Jeff does a reboot or something like that, it might restore his audio. But until then, let's get through the sponsors quickly. And I want to mention that, you know, on average, I personally put at least 4 or 5 hours minimum into the briefs for each night. And then, of course, we've got all the video that we shoot and we edit and so on and so forth, not asking for any extra recognition or anything like that. But when companies like Native Path come along and sponsor us, that means I don't have to go and do other stuff to pay bills. So it's very much appreciated when people like Native Path step up to the plate. So y'all have seen me show this BCAA drink mix, branched chain amino acids. Let me preface this by saying something else, by the way. We are not in the business of hurting anybody else's business. So if you don't see something on our channels, all of our different channels, it doesn't mean that we don't support them, but it certainly doesn't mean that we haven't looked at them and maybe had a less than favorable view. And there's a reason we do that. I have received products, tested them, they failed. I've sent them back to the company and they said, hey, there was a part internally that was broken in shipping. Let us send you another one. They did it and everything worked fine. So I don't want to, you know, hurt anybody's business. But if something does end up on our channel, then you know it's got our endorsement behind it. And regardless of whether or not somebody like Native Path wants to pay to promote a product or not, if I personally don't believe in the product, it hasn't passed my test, we're not going to take their money. We're not going to put it on the channel. So as far as branched chain amino acids are concerned, this is the bomb. We've got more information coming on this, so stay tuned for that. I'm trying not to get too bogged down at the beginning with this boilerplate stuff. I want to thank Sawyer as well. So if you ask our guys like Mike Sterling, who's done a ton of search and rescue stuff, JJ Morris, Jason Sawyer, they all support Sawyer for a very specific reason. Their quality control is ultra consistent. I'll be honest with you. I don't like water filtration devices because I've spent an ungodly amount of time the past few years testing them only to have most of them fail. But at the urging of the other guys, I figured, well, you know what? We'll take a look at Sawyer, and it's passed every test that I've thrown at it. Stay tuned on that. We'll have more in that regard as well. All right. So one more thing I want to quickly mention, because I haven't mentioned it too much recently, is that if you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, you can sign up for a free membership or a paid membership. Free membership, you'll get 50% of the content and there's no charge. $9.99 a month. There's lots of behind the scenes content, early access content. Right now, for example, that video, which is available to paid insiders, is probably the most deleted video ever in the history of the internet. And this is the video that I mentioned the other night ago that goes into great depth on the Committee of 300. And the people, the insiders who've watched this have written me, plus they've commented on it, that it's amazing information. And what's amazing is this Dr. John Coleman predicted everything that's happening today 30 plus years ago and described it in great detail. So if you want to sign up for $9.99 a month, we appreciate the support. If you don't, that's okay. Free membership, you'll still get plenty of stuff. So let's get started with what I feel is the most important article. Boy, we're not even into this yet. My watch is already going crazy. So there's a bunch of pundits out there right now. And so my apologies. What I was saying is, this is probably the most important article that I read all day or post. And there's a bunch of people out there that are saying Donald Trump is going to Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, the past couple of days, again today, because he's concerned he's going to lose those states. And this gentleman here probably has the best explanation that I've seen from anybody. If Donald Trump can carry those 3 states, the election's over. That will get him to 270 no matter what happens in the other swing states, no matter what happens anywhere as far as votes not being counted, cheating, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a brilliant move. This is one path that I wasn't aware of until today, that if we have enough surge tomorrow with voters in every state and these 3 states, and we win these 3 states, it's over tomorrow night, regardless of all the other shenanigans. So I feel like this is a really important take on things. Speaking of which, I normally put the brief for our videos over on Patreon. I had a super busy day today. I did not have a chance to do that. But if you're in our Signal chat, it's in there. And if you're not in our Signal chat, you sign up as a Survival Dispatch Insider. Send me an email, support@survivaldispatch.com. Send me your phone number after you get Signal installed. I'll be happy to invite you. I'll be honest with you, I cannot believe the amount of conversations that go on in there. And I'm sure somebody will make a comment in one of these chat sessions as to just how much time that our subscribers have been spending in there. And S2 has been burying them in intel that they can't get anywhere else. All right. So I want to get into some levity. I'll tell you what, Mike Sterling said to me last week. He said, I think a lot of people are starting to get black-pilled. They've just had enough of this election nonsense, enough of our country being in turmoil. I don't disagree. We mentioned it last night that as soon as we get this stuff behind us, barring something crazy, my biggest concern is that we have simultaneous terrorist attacks tomorrow, and that turns into suspended election, potentially martial law. Say a prayer tonight that doesn't happen, no matter what the outcome of anything else is. But once we get this election cycle behind us, and it's not going to be fully behind us for an extended period of time if we can get Donald Trump back in power. However, we're going to return to some of our roots with Survival Dispatch News. So we're going to talk more things like situational awareness. We're going to talk things like being gas station ready. We're going to talk things like drones, and on and on and on, all topics that are really key to survival, and especially urban survival. So speaking of which, just because we got off to a little bit of a rough start tonight, I did not do my part, as Mike Sterling would point out, and give you all the conflicted question. And if Jeff can't get the sound working on his end, it'll probably just be me. I'll do a quick check to see if anybody else has stepped into the studio. No, we just got Jeff in the studio. Jeff, can you hear me at all? I can hear you fine. All right. So it looks like we're having continuing audio issues on Jeff's end. So conflicted question. Apologies for being a little disjointed tonight. We didn't expect to have some of these technical issues right out of the gate. So conflicted question of the night. I had 2 of them written down. One is, how do you maintain situational awareness in public? And the second one was, how close is America to civil war? What would trigger it and why? And I think I'll answer both of them at the end of this episode. And I'd love to see y'all put your answers down below in the comment section per usual as well. All right, so back to our regular scheduled programming here. As I said, I'd like to inject a little bit of levity tonight. This is absolutely hilarious. So these guys dress up like they're working for the Kamala campaign, and they start going to these liberal people and saying, hey, we've got this immigrant just came into the country, this migrant, whatever you want to call them. I call them invaders. Could you put him up? He needs a place. Like, even if he could sleep on your floor. And of course, the response from them is what you would expect. So this is good for a laugh.
I dressed up like I work for Kamala's campaign, and now I'm going to deliver immigrants to her supporters.
Are you? We do have a surprise, if that's okay, just real fast. We're looking for a place for them to stay. They just came across. They'll sleep on floors. I mean, they're not picky, you know.
We have like a 2-year-old, so
Hector's good with kids.
sorry, we just can't.
Could they just like sleep on your lawn?
They need a place to stay. They just came across.
My teenagers live with me. I don't
Oh, that's
live
fine.
in your room.
Hector, he was dating a teenager like a little bit ago, so
Okay.
they just came across. They don't have papers. You're in support of like the whole border situation, and we're just trying to get them a floor to sleep on. You guys want COVID? They said they could survive it.
You learn how to say her name.
We work with her, so we know how to say her name.
Earlier you said Kamala. The way she pronounces her name is Kamala. You don't work with her either.
See that car? We have 3 dudes who just came across the border. We're trying to find them a home.
Find them a home.
Just say I'm voting for Donald Trump without saying it, okay?
That's a wrong attitude, mister. I said my home is private.
So you're voting Kamala.
No. You said it again.
Oh my God. Tell me that wasn't hilarious. That's fantastic. Still in the levity vein here. This is from Elon, as you can see from my screen. And touche, well-made point here. If they will raid a house for a squirrel, they're sure as shit going to come after you. I mean, that puts a pretty fine point on it that I cannot disagree with. I have another episode here, I should say, video that hits on these talking heads who are pissed off with Elon Musk, and they want Elon Musk to take his money out of the political process. And what's interesting is that all of these people are happy to have George Soros and Alex Soros money, but Elon and Trump, that's a totally different story. So let's hear what they have to say here.
But this group of mega donors, bigger donors than we ever have seen, the likes of Elon Musk, who's campaigning more and harder than any business person, who might end up with an official or unofficial role in a Donald Trump administration. What do you think about all this? And what are people telling you?
Well, I think it's really scary territory. We have some billionaires in this country. And if you look at the top 10 donors to Donald Trump, they've given over $1 billion to
Just the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, and that was not counting how much more Musk has spent. Musk is in Pennsylvania. He thinks because he can do rockets and electric cars that he can figure out how to get people to vote. But he's got a hard assignment because the people he's trying to get to vote are low propensity voters. They're people that don't vote all the time. In fact, this bro thing that they've done, let's get the young men. Well, the reason they're bros is because they don't care about voting.
Yeah,
they're
not living in your basement,
disengaged.
you're not going to vote.
Yeah, they're really hard to get to the voting place.
So, like I say, pretty hypocritical, typical of the liberals. Not happy that somebody's helping Trump, but it's okay when it's going the other way. So this next video, here's another good laugh as far as especially these white liberal women and cat ladies, whatever you want to call them. They're all mentally ill. And this is a good one. If you haven't seen this one cracks me up. They all crack me up, but this one is particularly funny.
I want to know how you can vote.
We can't answer the door right now, but if you'd like to leave a message, you can do it now.
James, you're the one that walks by here and always brings
mentally ill.
No, I haven't walked by recently.
This is a good one if you haven't seen this.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. You are voting for the devil. Don't you know that? No. Why are you voting for him? Because I believe he is the moral candidate. Oh my God. You for that one. That's moral? That's how your side acts. Oh my God. He's the most immoral person around. In your opinion, that's I'm sorry. Have a nice day. Have a nice day.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm trying to keep an eye on the comments over here since I don't have a co-pilot with me tonight, as well as get through these things. But that stuff, these, crazy TDS inflicted white cat ladies. Absolutely kill me.
Have a nice day.
Oh my goodness. I mean,
Jeff, you hear me now?
Keep an eye on the comments over cat ladies. 1 minute here. I'm getting feedback from Jeff's mic. Apologies again.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Feedback from Jeff's mic. I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Let me turn down this one.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Chris?
I can. Yes, sir. But if you're watching live on Rumble, I can. But if you're watching live on Rumble, there's a delay. All right. Apologies to everybody out there. We'll move on here. So Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch, assuming that most of you are familiar with him. If not, this guy is another tireless worker to make sure that our republic is saved from evil globalists, the cabal, again, whatever you want to call them. And he's set up a fraud report line, which is in this post here. And again, if you're an insider, check out the Signal chat. I've posted all of these links over there, but I'm aware of at least half a dozen different fraud lines that you can call. True the Vote would be a big one. And this is a good one here as well. Fraud lines. Don't mind me. I got to put Jeff on. I'm getting the feedback. Don't mind me. I got to put Jeff on. We're playing back and forth here. He turns his mic on. I turn it off because I'm getting feedback. The funny thing is, years ago, somebody said to me when we're making videos that if you're going to have a problem with the video, it will always be the audio. Somewhat ironic, but the truth. All right. So next one up tonight. Kind of serious, but also in the interest of levity here. Of course, the Dilly meme team are amazingly skilled, and this is really good. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, and it was to make America great again. It's almost 3 minutes long, but because I'm flying solo and because this is a really good video, I'm going to play the whole thing for y'all.
We've been told again and again that we cannot vote for the man that did more for the black community than any other president. If a black man dares speak out in support of Donald Trump, a Democrat is always there to call that man an Uncle Tom, a house Negro, or even worse. We've been used by the Democrats. For decades, we've supported the party of slavery and Jim Crow, supported the party of the Ku Klux Klan. Broken promises and broken homes, our families demolished, our communities destroyed, and yet we continue to vote for the Democrats. They've convinced us they're our only friends when their actions speak the truth for all to see. They act surprised that we're unsatisfied. Well, we can never be satisfied as we're taken for granted, counted on for votes, and then cast aside for those who come to this country illegally. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their freedoms and locked away for minor offenses, or the president's own son, having committed a litany of high crimes and perversions, walks free without a care. While our own president dares to tell us we ain't black if we don't get in line behind him. The hypocrisy of the Democratic Party knows no bounds. No, we are not satisfied, and we will never be satisfied until those who oppress us while they claim to be our friends are stripped of their powers and brought to full justice under God. Until our cities are no longer overrun with migrants and crime. Until God, family, and country are once again the strength of our nation. Today, we are governed by those who have cast aside both God and reason, where every form of degeneracy is not only tolerated, but celebrated. Enough voting for Democrats who claim they care about us but enact the very policies that push us down and keep us there. Enough of these frauds and liars who claim to be against racism, yet believe an individual's race is their defining quality. Once we say enough from every mountainside, let freedom ring. We recognize that Donald J. Trump kept the promises he made to all Americans, and we will vote for Donald Trump as our president, and we will fight beside him to make America great again. We will not allow the American dream to die. And as we unite under the banner of President Trump and America First, let there be no doubt that, yes, as the man always says, the best is yet to come.
All right, so I got to admit that's one of the best videos I've seen put out by Dilly, because it's, you know, there's some comedic element to it, but it's actually pretty good from a serious perspective. I honestly believe that if MLK was alive today, he would absolutely support Donald Trump versus the, I don't know, the race hustlers on the left, whatever you want to call them, sort of thing. So the next one that I want to bring up is pretty interesting from the perspective that Trump isn't even in office. And we've discussed this briefly before, but we've got world leaders who are already saying, you know what, if Donald Trump wants us to end this war, we'll end the war. We want to hear what he's got to say. So this is Putin in this particular instance. The audio track is all in Russian, so there's no sense of me playing it. But he essentially says that he's very interested to hear what Donald Trump has to say, that he believes Donald Trump, that he wants peace. And again, Donald Trump is the president of peace. He started no new wars in his first term. He has no desire to start any wars. But the way Donald Trump carries himself, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, is that he's not going to start any wars, but he sure as heck will end them if somebody, you know, attacks America or Americans in general. All right, so let's have a look at another video here. Well, hold on a second. We lost that one. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is David Axelrod. For those of you who aren't familiar with him, was really tight with Obama for years. I'm sure he still is. And basically in this video, he says, you know, he's deeply concerned that the support won't turn out for Harris tomorrow. And here's the thing, and we've discussed this, but it's worth repeating. If you go look at these polls that say it's neck and neck or that Kamala is in the lead, they always oversample Democrats. And somewhere amongst all the videos I've got tonight is a really funny one. So there was one a couple days ago released from Iowa, and this lady said, you know, Kamala's running away with it. It's all gaslighting, right? It's meant to keep Trump voters at home. Oh, there's no sense of me voting. You know, Kamala's going to win a landslide. It's gaslighting, essentially. And she gets interviewed, and while she's being interviewed, the interviewer says something with regards to some of the data in her study, and she says, well, I'm having a hard time seeing it right now, but what does this R and what does this D stand for? And the guy's like, the R stands for Republican, the D stands for Democrat. Just complete and utter bullshit. So if you sample 50-60% Democrats, that's what you get. The crazy thing is that she admitted that over half of the people sampled were white women over 50 years old. So not a good sample, purposely oversampling, you know, Kamala voters to try and make it look like she's got some surge going on. I can tell you in the unskewed polls that have been shared with me, 70% minimum support for Donald Trump. And that's when you're sampling equal Democrats, Republicans, and independents. And I got to say this because there's always new people in the audience. I feel that the Republicans and Democrats are two different sides of the same coin. I've been saying that for 25 years. So what I'm interested in is the MAGA people. That's it. I don't give a shit that it's under the Republican banner for now. Whatever. It's MAGA all the way, because anybody who's a Republican and not MAGA is just part of the political theater that we've been subjected to for years. So anyway, let me pull up these comments here from David Axelrod, because this is as close as you get to Obama. And when people like this say he's concerned what's going to happen on election day, it's worth listening to. And it jives with all of the polls that we've seen. And it also jives, I guarantee you, with their internal polls, which is telling them they're going to get shellacked even when they cheat their ass off.
Worried about right now?
Well, look, the watchword of the day is humility here. When you have polls that are this close, and I'm sitting next to one of the great pollsters, and I think she would tell you, when you have polls this close, you're not sure of anything. And it really matters who shows up, because these polls are not precise. So what I'm worried about is you're counting on some women who are independent Republican women to come out and vote for Harris. Is that going to materialize? Is the gender gap going to be what you need it to be? Are minority voters going to come out in the numbers of African-American voters in particular? And are you going to get the margins that you want there? So there are a lot of open questions, and they're obviously working it hard right now. There are feet on the street, and they're doing the kind of work that you do in a race like this. But this race is filled with uncertainty today.
What is?
All right. So moving on to the next one here. So I apologize for the somewhat chaotic order of everything today. It was a really long day, really busy day. I usually try to do my best to get them in the right order, not always, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like whatever you eat all goes to the same place anyway. But here's another video that highlights the insanity of the left. And, you know, if that sounds harsh, that's too bad, because all these people are on mood enhancing drugs, SSRIs, and their behavior is just inexplicable, other than maybe RFK could go to work on making asylums great again as well. But check this out. And like the comment made on this, remember, these people vote. I don't know what to say, other than this is not the first type of video that I've seen like this, where these middle-aged white girls, liberals, nutcases, go to these weekend getaways so that they can release their rage or whatever the heck they're doing. But it's pretty comical on the one hand, but like End Wokeness, which was the person who posted that last one, said, you got to remember these people are voting, which makes it actually kind of scary, right? So this guy, by the way, got a much better reaction than I did on the weekend. I went out this weekend. I had my 1776 hat on that Donald Trump gave all of us at the Border 911 Gala. I had a Trump 45 baseball jersey on, and I had my Trump runners on. And while we were at Sam's, I estimated that there were somewhere around 1,000 people in the store. And out of those 1,000 people, there were 6 guys, I said to my wife, that I'd be willing to go to war with. The rest of them, they were either out of shape, skinny, whatever, like too skinny, skinny fat. Anyway, ironically enough, 6 people very quietly came up to me and said, love your hat, love your shirt. Shirt needs to have a 47 on the back, not just a 45. So we go from there to Whole Foods, and nobody said a word. Nobody batted an eye. We went from there to Aldi's, and one person said, love your shirt, sort of thing. And I guess it's strong Donald Trump country here in Central Florida. So I'm sure I would have got a different result if I had have gone somewhere like this guy here. So as you can see in the text on the video, grocery shopping in a blue state with a MAGA hat. golly. Some of the stuff's too funny. So this next one here is not a video, but I love the first sentence, first couple words there, terrified. This is not the look of a winning campaign. They know Trump is the destroyer of dynasties. Trump ended the Bush dynasty, Cheney, McCain, Romney, and McConnell dynasties, Clinton dynasties, Biden crime family, and up next, the Obama dynasty soon. And Benny Johnson is a prolific poster. He's got a pretty good take on things, and he's right. As you can tell, neither one of the Obamas is, got that positive look on their face at all, and rightfully so, because they know that they're going to get their ass kicked. And last night we discussed the fact that at any point in time, the Democrats have somewhere between a 7 and 10% edge based on their cheating, mechanics that are at their disposal. But this is such a big swing towards Trump now that it's probably too big to rig. I say probably because we can't take our foot off the gas. Everybody has got to get out and vote tomorrow. You've heard me say that for months and months now, but it's hammer time, and it's time to make it happen. All right, so the next one here. This is pretty interesting, specific to Pennsylvania, and very consistent with the polling that we've seen as well. So the Atlas Intel CEO says that if white males turn out for Trump on election day, he will win Pennsylvania and potentially the rest of the Rust Belt states. He's widely regarded as the most accurate pollster of 2020. Personally, I don't think that means a whole lot because there were so many irregularities and outright theft that happened in 2020, but whatever. What I do agree with is his take on this is that if Christian men and Christian gun owners and Christian hunters get out to vote, the Democrats could never win an election against anybody that those groups of people vote for. And it's a huge number, right? There are estimates as high as 30 million Christians don't vote. If you got half of that, the election will become too big to rig. It's also estimated that there are approximately 10 million gun owners, as we covered last night with Jason Wilson, who don't vote as well. And these are big blocks of voters that can swing things in the right direction. And I posted something earlier today on X, you need to vote tomorrow like your life depends on it, because it does. We will lose this country and everything that it stands for if we don't do that. So I don't know that I'm going to play the whole video here, but let's listen to what he's got to say.
The Trump campaign so far, where they've been trying to reach out to Black and Latino voters, but they seem to always end up coming back to their more traditional base. And so I think what we're seeing here is a lot of people are dissatisfied with the Biden administration, and Kamala perhaps hasn't been able to distance herself from that. And so some people here are leaning for Trump. But in terms of the campaign message, we've seen that time and again where Trump sort of keeps coming back to this base, right? Into this idea more to his more traditional base than this consistent maybe reaching out to Black and Latino voters.
At the end of the day, what really makes a difference in the swing states, what will really make a difference on Tuesday, in my opinion, in a place like Pennsylvania, will Puerto Ricans there be important? Of course, but even more so will it will be the white turnout mobilization. So if white males really turn out for Trump on Tuesday, he can carry out Pennsylvania. And I think the whole garbage truck scene and whatever we're seeing in terms of efforts to mobilize voters.
So speaking of garbage, I don't know if you all noticed on tonight's thumbnail, but that's the Trump train hauling garbage. I didn't create it. Somebody else did it on AI. I thought it was kind of apropos for where we are in the grand scheme of things, but the Trump garbage train, essentially. All right, next one up from Fisher King. I started following this guy not too long ago, and his posts on X are really on point. And I'm not speaking from an echo chamber standpoint. He's got a lot of really original thoughts that I haven't seen other people profess, or at least profess it at his level of articulation. So I'm going to read this one because it's important. To prevent Trump from becoming POTUS, the left, 1, tried to remove him from the ballot of 16 states. 2, tried to bankrupt him with frivolous civil lawsuits. 3, tried to jail him with fake criminal prosecutions. 4, encouraged hysteria that resulted in 2 assassination attempts. And beyond this, they hobbled him in office with hoaxes like the Russia nonsense, and state prosecutors filed lawsuit after lawsuit to prevent him from enforcing immigration law. They impeached him twice. They suggested he was mentally ill or incompetent, with professors writing newspaper articles. There is a power structure that is frightened to death of a new Trump presidency. A lot of people are involved in the conspiracy described above to keep him from power. To have a healthy country, the people involved in this, funding this, need to be flushed out and criminally prosecuted where appropriate. If this happened, it would be a major achievement of Trump, cleaning out corruption that subverts the American system. That is so on point. And a couple people have said to me, they said, you know, regardless of what Trump may or may not accomplish in a second term, if he can do a reset on the bureaucracy, the deep state, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, get meaningful legislation passed that prevents the massive amount of cheating, which I feel has gone on since Woodrow Wilson, by the way. I think that hasn't been a legitimate presidential election since Woodrow Wilson, and there's only been 2 legitimate results out of all those illegitimate elections. So I would call cheating an illegitimate election. JFK, though, had so much support, just like Trump had so much support in 2016. They overcame all of the cheating. They're the only 2 that have been elected by the will of the people, and the rest of it's all been political theater that's been forced down our throats and in an effort to divide the country, which, you know, way to go, guys. You succeeded. You've divided the country to the point where we'll never unite again, and we have to take some pretty significant steps to halt the other side, which, by the way, is being driven by, you know, the CCP, Russia, Iran, North Korea. All these countries have been trying to destroy us from within because they know that they can't destroy us by, you know, establishing a beachhead and having a conventional kinetic war with us. So they have to defeat us by screwing up our country and our culture and all these things that go with it. And they've almost succeeded to the point that if we don't win this election, we don't get the country back on track, we're done. But that could be Donald Trump's crowning achievement of putting the system back to the way the founding fathers intended, getting rid of all the corruption through good, meaningful legislation. Even if he does nothing else, that will be one heck of a legacy on his behalf. So moving on to the next one. I like Salty Goat. I don't know if y'all follow him. He's pretty funny most of the time. And this one here, he's like, you know, how on earth did I miss this? Trump is savage. And God bless him. He sure is.
I came in today. I said, and you know, this is after 4 of these things I've been in, all fairness. I mean, I'm a human being, right? I come in, and here's the problem. I said, oh man, it's too low. I said, way too low.
Oh my goodness. I'm sure you all have seen Kid Rock and others speak that Donald Trump's one of the funniest people they've ever met in their life. And he cracks me up. So when he does stuff like that, typically it means that they've hit a technical snafu and the teleprompters aren't working. Maybe there's problems with mics, which has happened a few times lately. When he flies by the seat of his pants, I can just imagine some of his handlers who they should know exactly what to expect from Donald Trump. But I'm sure every time that the teleprompter goes out, they think, oh my God, what's he going to say now? And how is the mainstream media going to twist that and use it against him? All right, moving on to the next post, which is Elon Musk. And this has got 10.7 million views, by the way. And he reshared, this was originally from Insurrection Barbie that he reshared this, but none of these countries are racist for having voter ID, but we're racist. Before the next election, we need voter ID in all 50 states. This whole voter ID thing that's been going on for years is proof positive of what I've been saying consistently on Survival Dispatch News. The only way to square this sort of thing is that our country is under the direct control of our enemies, and they want to steal elections and screw up our elections as best as they can. I mean, look at all these countries on this list that require voter ID. Some of these are second and third world countries, and we're supposed to be the most advanced country in the world. I mean, you want to talk legacy for Donald Trump? And again, you've got 50 separate elections, right? Because the states are in charge of elections. But if we could get to the point where voter ID, paper ballots, same day results happen, the globalist crew, the cabal, again, whatever you want to call them, they couldn't steal another election. So this is downright embarrassing when you see things like this. And again, we're supposed to be the most advanced country in the world. All right, so here we go. This one is pure gold. So this is the lady who broke the Iowa poll on the weekend that showed that Kamala was way out in front. And number one, Iowa and that whole area, Iowa is deep Donald Trump territory. And even before Donald Trump came on the scene, it's been deep Republican territory. And I don't know when the last time was that a Democrat won any race of significance in Iowa. I've heard a few different things, but it's been quite a while. So not only did she put out this bullshit poll of, this surge coming for Kamala in the home stretch. Again, it's to disenfranchise MAGA supporters, keep them home. Don't bother voting. Kamala's going to win in a landslide. Total BS. But this is the one, as you can see on the screen, where she didn't know what R&D stood for on the documentation for her own poll. And then, of course, she admitted that we just happened to sample a whole bunch of older women who were, Kamala supporters. So,
Noah, are you able to put up that tweet? Maybe it's up, but I can't see it because it's up. It's up. All right, Ann, are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. Could you just go through and say what you think about those criticisms?
Well, I'm trying. This is in a format that's a little difficult for me to see. What does this D represent and the R represent?
D. Noah, are you able to put up that tweet? Maybe it's up and I can't.
I'm trying. This is in a format that's a little difficult for me to see. What does this D represent and the R represent?
D. Noah, are you able to put up that tweet? Maybe it's up.
Oh my Lord. I mean, can you all believe that? Like, they couldn't even find a bullshit artist that could bullshit her way through a bullshit poll that she did with bullshit skewed results that was, in an attempt to gaslight MAGA supporters. I mean, it makes me shake my head, but to be honest with you, it doesn't surprise me because the level of incompetency in our big parties in these big elections, both sides are retards, pardon my French. Not MAGA, by the way, but I will definitely say the rhinos and Republicans. All right, so this next one is pretty chilling, actually. So this gentleman who speaks here with Tucker Carlson basically says that all of the large law firms across the country who are engaged in constitutional law or anything even remotely related to that are being threatened by mega money, that if they defend Donald Trump or if they work on behalf of Donald Trump, that this group is going to go after them and make sure that their licenses to practice law are revoked. I mean, this just tells you how crooked these guys are on the left. So I'll let you hear it in his own words.
And none of them ever get their bar licenses pulled. I mean, this is not a self-policing profession. It's just not.
No. But
they're going after you. But if you represent Trump, then that does trigger the enforcement.
And they are explicitly messaging today, as we're talking right now on the 65 project, they have proudly, we are running this campaign in the swing states geared where big law lawyers and the partners at these law firms and these lawyers are going to see it, threatening them, do not represent Trump in any post-election challenge because we will come after your license. And that is clearly an effort to intimidate lawyers against defending anyone's rights, clearly President Trump's rights. It's running in the swing states. They're proudly doing it right now. It's not speculation why they're doing it. They're proudly doing it, and it's having the desired effect. It's very difficult now to get a lawyer who's willing to do election integrity work for Republicans because you're putting yourself in the crosshair of this institutional machine.
And none of them.
I mean, I don't know that there's much more that I can add to that video because, I mean, this is straight up bullying. And you weaponizing the law to another level, which they've already engaged in lawfare against Trump, amongst others. I mean, Steve Bannon, they'd throw him in jail because he ignored a congressional subpoena. And Eric Holder and Merrick Garland have both ignored congressional subpoenas and said that they would decide when something was legitimate or not, and therefore they weren't going to appear in front of Congress. Steve Bannon does the same thing, and they throw him in jail for 4 months. And technically, he was supposed to be let go at 3 months. They kept him in jail an extra month above and beyond what they were allowed to do. And I'm hoping that we see some lawsuits come out of that. But everything is rigged in favor of the bad guys, and they're going to do everything in their power not to let Donald Trump get power back. So tomorrow clearly is a big event, big watershed event. If it's too big to rig, and if we all get out and do what we need to do, and Trump is declared the winner, the timeline is November 26th. Merchan will probably throw him in jail. They're prepared and ready to put him in Rikers. And if they do that, they're going to try to Epstein him. And if they don't Epstein him, they're going to try and disqualify him vis-a-vis the 14th Amendment, which does not apply. He's never been charged with insurrection, never convicted of insurrection or anything of the sort. So let's say we get past all of that. Then we're looking at January the 6th, them not certifying the election and then leveraging the DOD Directive 5240.01, which allows the U.S. military to use lethal force against Americans on American soil, which, by the way, the National Guard is always authorized to do that. So if somebody calls in the National Guard, they're accomplishing the same thing. So we have to get through all of that to get to a point where Trump gets put back in office. But there's some crazy wild cards at play here, including tomorrow. If we see simultaneous terrorist attacks tomorrow across the country, God forbid that happens, they will suspend the election. They will declare martial law. We will be in complete limbo as far as getting Donald Trump back into power. Nothing good will come out of that. Not just the acts of terrorism themselves, but our opportunity to have Donald Trump rightfully reinstated as president is at risk if that unfolds. And my crystal ball says that if that happens, they will not take down the power grid and they will not take down data networks for at least 2, maybe 3 days, because the way the bad guys work is they want everybody to know what they've inflicted. So if let's say Hezbollah launched multiple attacks across the country simultaneously, the internet will stay up, the grid will stay up until they know that everybody knows about it. But here's the next thing. They launch another set of simultaneous terrorist attacks on Wednesday, another set on Thursday. The whole nation would be paralyzed at that point in time, complete chaos. There'd be no food on the shelves. Your grocery store has 3 days of food. That's it. Supply chains would be done. And that's when they'll take down the grid, and that's when they'll take down comms. And, the numbers are pretty astonishing. I've asked some of our guests. As you all know, we've got some very, astute, accomplished individuals. And the one that sticks with me the most is that if we go anywhere from 6 to 12 months with the grid being down, you're looking at 95% of Americans being dead. And my little informal survey on the weekend on Saturday at Sam's, then Whole Foods, and then Aldi's, I shit you not, 1,000 people were in that first store, Sam's warehouse. There were 6 guys in there that I would go to war with. I'm 55 years old. I've been blessed with really good athletic genetics, but I'm not as fast as I was, in the past. That's pretty sad. A 55-year-old guy goes through 1,000 people and can only find 6 that I would count on to cover my back. It's a sad statement. It's a really sad statement. All right. So I've got a video here from Don Jr. Speaking with regards of the cabal here. And good point. This is complete bullshit. This is a whole other subject unto itself that I believe Donald Trump can and will fix. So you go to work, you look at your paycheck, you've paid X amount of percentage in taxes, depending on the state and your income bracket. Then you take that money and you go buy stuff with it, like say an iPhone, and you pay tax on the iPhone. And you use the phone for a year or two and you decide to upgrade. So you take this one and you put it on eBay or somewhere else to sell it, and it sells for over $600. You now have to, basically have a W-9 showing, or, just like a 1099 would have a W-9 showing that you receive this income so that you can pay taxes on it again. Like the actual tax burden on some people in some states is way over 50% now, because you're taxed on the same money over and over again. I mean, I can't believe that we haven't had a tax revolution just based on that alone. And they laugh all the way to the bank. They think it's funny. So let's just hear what Don Jr. has to say here.
You recognize it's one of the most corrupt countries ever. They found that one of the ministers had a couple $1 million in U.S. cash under his mattress, because a lot of public servants just have that. Only Bob Menendez in New Jersey had that as a Democrat senator. And it was gold, not cash, but we've been sending him that much. So we have $250 billion there, plus the Pentagon, who lost another 250 billion. Remember that when they lost it. Now, man, if you send $601 in your Venmo account to your friend, they're going to audit you. But if the Pentagon loses $250 billion, what's the big deal? Think of how insane this all is. Of course it is. Well, yeah, and it's all a kickback. That's why the guy from Raytheon wanted it, right? Yep. You only keep the board seat at Raytheon if you're in the position to keep selling more missiles, peddling death. Doesn't matter. That's why DC does it. That's why all the generals love it, because that's their off-ramp. That's the retirement package. You sit on that board. Oh, yeah. Right? It's why they've gone so woke, because you can be the woke general at Disney. And the Disney can then say, look, we have a general. We're being totally across, It's all a big scam. Yep. But it doesn't have to be. At your expense. All of it's at your expense. But there's a point where it doesn't work anymore.
By the way, there's see if I can see it on my screen here. That's myself with Trump Jr. Lighting's pretty bad there, but myself with Trump Jr. on the red carpet back home in Dallas a few years back. Apologies for the light reflecting poorly off of that, but this is why I refer to myself as the Forrest Gump of the business world. Never the smartest guy in the room, but I get invited to all these incredible things and think to myself, what on earth am I doing here? And then I thank God for the experiences I've had. But at the end of the day, I'm a college dropout, so I'm not in the same league as any of these guys. So I'm always continually blessed to be invited to this sort of stuff. All right, moving on to the next one here. So I got a few of them here that are kind of downers, and we're getting close to wrapping up here. But this one here is a young lady. She was a Puerto Rican fitness influencer, lived in Georgia, and she was raped and murdered by, guess what? Another illegal alien. This time one from Mexico. It's a almost 2-minute video. I won't play the whole thing, but This is another example of blood on Obama's hands, Biden's hands, Kamala's hands, and everybody who voted for those people.
Hola, soy Mímico, todos me conocen. Bueno, vengo aquí con un tema, no sé si les ha pasado que tú como persona quieres lograr un emprendimiento. Bueno, yo agarré la clase de labios, como agarré, yo necesito ustedes lograr, en todas esas, ya uno, dos, en cuarto. Si tú crees que...
All right, so my bad on that one. That's the wrong video. There's another one of her and that discusses the illegal who killed her. Suffice it to say, you know, this is the same thing as Lake and Riley and all the other ones that preceded this. And this is going to be, doesn't matter if Donald Trump gets back in, doesn't matter if Tom Homan starts, you know, a massive deportation right away. We're going to feel the effects of this invasion probably for 3 generations minimum, maybe longer. It's going to take a hellacious amount of work to clean up the mess that's been created. And that's predicated on us getting Trump back in office. So I'll move on to the next one here. And this one is really, really, really bad. So it's been a while since we've spoke much on the topic of child sex trafficking. It's on our minds all the time. We have a lot of friends, a lot of people in our circle who are working very hard to bust these trafficking rings, human trafficking rings, especially child sex trafficking rings. We will have a bunch of them tomorrow night, by the way. We're going to start our election night coverage at 7 p.m. Eastern, same as usual, but it'll go on until the wee hours of the morning. And at last count, we have somewhere around 40 plus high-level people that'll be joining us, you know, Doc Pete Chambers, Victor Avila, those sort of guys who have firsthand experience, JJ Carroll, with this child sex trafficking stuff. So somebody took this audio, which it's hard to listen to, and then took that audio and took audio of John Podesta and did an analysis on it. And it came out that it's John Podesta's voice. This is not AI. I did a deep dive on this to ensure that we weren't reporting something that was false. I don't know what to say other than I'm going to play it. It's pretty horrific. And this is how sick these people are. And if there's anything that if we had a choice of, say, one bad aspect of the country, if you could wave a magic wand and make one thing go away, it would be this child sex trafficking. This is an abomination. This is evil on an unparalleled level. And we're the capital of the world for this crap, which just to this day blows me away.
What's my name? What's my name? My other name. What do you call me? I am your father. From now on, you will call me your father. Stop. You will call me your father. What is my name, huh?
I'm just a kid who's 4. Each day I grow some more. Finding my way. Growing up is not good talk.
Don't you? You think you're hot shit, don't you? You will call me. You will call me. You will call me. Say it again.
Just get lost. Just get lost. Just get lost.
Wow. You know, for those of you who aren't familiar, there's all kinds of pictures inside John Podesta's home that have all kinds of satanic artwork, all kinds of things that, you know, they consider art, but are, you know, essentially child pornography. It's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So what you saw there with those graphs was an audio analysis of him speaking, and then him speaking in that video, which of course he denied was him, and the voice signatures matched up 100%. It was absolutely him. And he was telling this kid to address him as father. And he was also like, when he said, "What's my name?" and the kid said, "John," he told him to say his name was Skippy. Well, it's on record that John Podesta has joked about his evil twin, whose name's Skippy. In other words, his alter ego, bipolar, mental criminal, whatever you want to call it. So the reason I put that in the day before the election is that this is what our country will be returning to if we don't get out and do what we need to do tomorrow. Not only do we all need to go out and vote, we need to take somebody with us or more. I have an interesting graphic coming up on that. We're in the home stretch, though. We're almost done here. This is my good friend, Don Mann. Don and I have done multiple things together, from filming his TV show, Surviving Man. My wife and I host Surviving Man Aftermath. If you will remember, in the past, Don has been on Survival Dispatch News many, many times. We haven't been able to have him on too much recently because of some personal stuff going on. He's fixing to get married, and we congratulate him for that. But his girl has had some pretty extensive surgeries, and in typical fashion, Don Mann has taken that on, and he loves her, and he's doing everything he can to look after her. Don told me 6 months ago, actually, let me back up for a second for those people who are new. So Don Mann, when he went to the Navy recruiter, he'd already been to the U.S. Marine Corps recruiter. When he went to the Navy recruiter, the guy sold him on the concept of becoming a SEAL. So he went the Navy route instead of the Marine Corps. And when he got there, he said to somebody, somebody in power, he said, "I want to be a Navy SEAL." And they said, "Well, you can't apply for BUDS," which is the training, the underwater demolition training, until you've served 2 years. So he served 2 years. He was trained as a medic. He served 2 years as a medic. But Don Mann's a phenomenal individual. He pledged to himself that after these 12-hour days, that he would do 1,000 of some exercise every single day, 7 days a week, 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 pull-ups, whatever it may be. And 2 years later, he got accepted into BUDS, and he went on to be in SEAL teams 1, 2, and 6. Along the way, he decided to get into triathlons. He did a handful of triathlons, so running a marathon, swimming X amount of miles, bicycling 100 miles, whatever it is. He got bored of them. So he decided to do these 10X triathlons where you run 10 back-to-back marathons. So over 260 miles run, and then thousands of miles on a bicycle. He did one that he told me rode all the way from Vancouver on the west coast of Canada to somewhere in central Canada. There's 2,000 miles. And that's just the bicycle portion of these 10X triathlons. And then had to swim an ungodly distance. Not that many years ago, and I think Don's 63 now, not too many years ago, he was climbing Mount Everest, and he went into hypoxia, so basically oxygen starvation. Most people who are on Mount Everest and at a high elevation like he was, their bodies are still there. They don't survive, and they certainly don't come off the mountain. And so fortunately for Don, he's a tough guy, and he was able to assist the rescuers enough that they were able to get him off the mountain. Ends up in the hospital. He was this close to death. And he decides that over the next year, he's going to take his cardiovascular level to a whole new level. And he goes back to Mount Everest a year later to kick its ass. And he did. And now he goes back every year to kick Mount Everest's ass. Like, Don is a phenomenal human being. I can tell you his show, Surviving Man, is the only reality TV show that I've seen and participated in that is truly reality TV. The contestants have no idea what hell he's going to put them through. I've seen him take people in the pouring rain, going down trails that are covered up in water moccasins to go do a recce, keep them up until 3-4 o'clock in the morning in Florida swamps up to their armpits, doing navigational training. He is one tough son of a gun. So 6 months ago or so, Don and I were talking, and he said to me, Chris, he said, I'm so disgusted with the direction that our country's gone. He said, for the first time in my life, I'm not flying an American flag in my house. And he lives on top of a mountain in Virginia. There's only half a dozen people who live on this mountain. And for Don Man to say that he couldn't fly the American flag in good conscience anymore is absolutely, it's astounding to someone like me, because he's one of the most patriotic men I've ever met in my life. So I was talking to Don on the weekend, and I said, hey, Don, I said, do you want to participate in our election night coverage? And he said, I'd love to, but he's got to do this other stuff with his fiance, and completely understandable. And typical Don Man is just a great guy. He's like, can't apologize enough. And I said, well, you want to send in a video of your thoughts? And so he sends me the video, and it came in just before I went live tonight. And he sends me a text message and an email, both of them saying, here's my video, but feel free not to use it. It won't hurt my feelings. He's such a humble man. But I want to share it tonight so that it doesn't get lost in the craziness tomorrow night, because this is about as raw as it gets for a man who put his life on the line for many, many years for our country and performed at the highest level, SEAL Team 6. I'm going to let Don take it from here for the next couple minutes.
Hello, Chris. I just want to say that as an American patriot and someone who's proudly served our country, either in the military or in the government for over 40 years, I don't have faith in our government anymore at all. I don't have faith in our political institutions or any of our agencies, because they have been weaponized and they've been politicized, and the left has taken them over. This is the most violent political era in a long time in our country, probably since 1968. 4 years ago, when this nightmare was taking place, I felt like I was kicked in the stomach when I saw all these election fraud and allegations of election fraud. I couldn't believe everything that was coming out. I went to bed that night thinking, okay, Trump won. The next morning, he lost. I still don't know how that happened. But we've been worried about this for many years now. And across the country, law enforcement officials, political officials, people from all the police departments are all taking precautions on the political unrest and violence that may occur after we get these results. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But I'm pessimistic, because with Biden and Harris being in charge, being at the helm of our country for the last 4 years, I feel our country has even gone downhill further, and it's been more weaponized. And the swamp is bigger than ever before. Trump made it very, very clear. He said we're going to have safe and good elections, and it's for Republicans and Democrats. But I'm afraid that that's not going to happen. I do hope I'm wrong. I think the election interference could be greater than what we've had before. And I wish I had a more optimistic note for you.
All right. So for those of you on Rumble, I'm guessing that you saw Jeff MD's comments that, he loves Don and would take a bullet for him. People on YouTube wouldn't see that, and we're broadcasting in 6 different places right now, doing my best to keep an eye on it over here. But Jeff has co-authored some books with Don Man, and actually Don Man is the person who introduced me to Jeff MD. And all of us, anybody who knows Don Man, has nothing but good things to say about him. So here's a really good info meme, for lack of a better term, that just shows you how radical the numbers are, right? So if you commit to vote Trump and you get 5 friends and family to go vote for Trump, and then you ask them to share this and do the same, if everyone does that, you're looking at somewhere upwards of 3,900 additional votes for Donald Trump. And this is how it's done. And I've even seen the Democrats recently say, we got to get out the vote. We got to get as many people out there so we overcome, Trump's support. I do not believe they have legitimate support on his level, but in order to drive this thing home and to win this election, this is what we've got to do. If you voted already, that's great. If you haven't voted and you're waiting till tomorrow, like myself and my wife, take somebody with you. Let's drive this thing home, make it too big to rig. So with all of that being said, we're in the home stretch here. As per usual, we always have, a handful of action items based on whatever we're discussing tonight. I kept it to just 3 things tonight. Go vote tomorrow. Take as many people with you as you can. And tonight will be the last time you have to hear me say that. Say a prayer for our country. God forbid that we have widespread terrorist attacks tomorrow, disrupting the election. And say a prayer for Donald Trump, because even if we get him the votes and the Electoral College votes, they're going to continue to come against him with everything they've got. If they can assassinate him, they feel that they can take the country back and continue on with their globalist plans and destroy America as we know it. And I would tend to agree with that. So, conflicted question. There were 2 short questions tonight. So, number 1, how do you maintain awareness in public? First and foremost, phones down, eyes up. If you're walking around in public like this, you're sitting around somewhere in public like this, you're at a gas station doing this, you are a prime candidate to be accosted. So whether it's the animal kingdom or humankind, the element of surprise is typically the first thing that the bad guy wants. And I've mentioned this before. For example, when a tiger in the wild bends over to drink out of a watering hole, which probably has crocodiles in it, their ears have markings on the back that look just like eyeballs. So when you look at it, it looks like the tiger's looking back at you. And that's one example of many that try to basically disarm the bad guy by making him think that you have eyes on him. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do training wise that you can do with flashlights, for example. Even during the daytime, if you're at a gas station and you have a flashlight in your pocket and somebody approaches you and you want to stop them, you can shine a flashlight in their face and pretty quickly interrupt their OODA loop. So observe, orient, decide, and act. And at the same time, they now know that not only do you have eyes on them, but if they see you have this on you, a flashlight on you, it's not a stretch to think that you might have something else. Maybe you have a knife in your pocket. Maybe you have a gun, whatever the case may be. A flashlight actually is a far more powerful EDC tool than many people realize. So situational awareness means, for example, when we're pumping gas, I walk away from the truck so I can see everybody and everything around me to take away the element of surprise. When we eat in a restaurant, I sit with my back to a wall so I can see the doors and I can see everybody in the restaurant. And there's multiple things like that you can do. But at the end of the day, those are a handful of things that I do to maintain situational awareness. If you've got, some suggestions, put them down below in the comment section. We want to see your answers always for the conflict questions. The second one, how close is America to civil war? What would trigger it and why? I personally believe we're this close to a civil war. We are not advocating that. I'm not, saying that people should engage in violence or anything of the sort. But I think if Trump gets put back in office, you're going to see Antifa and those people riot, and you're going to see George and Alex Soros fund their efforts, pallets of bricks showing up in downtown core areas, the whole 9 yards. If, on the other hand, they steal the election like they did in 2020, there are a lot of people that are not going to stand for another stolen election, and that'll result in civil unrest. What does it look like? I don't know, because it's not like, the first Civil War where you got the blues and the grays and the Mason-Dixon line. It's a completely different dynamic today. It's something that we don't want to see, but we're on the very precipice of having a civil war breakout. And if, to be honest with you, the Obamas of the world would be perfectly happy to see the whole thing burned down. to eliminate Donald Trump and all of his supporters. They flat out said that they're going to come after anybody and everybody who's been a MAGA supporter if they steal this election. And sometimes you got to believe what your enemy tells you, that they're going to do exactly what they say. And well, everybody will end up in jail or internment camps or something to that effect. Other than that, if y'all could please mash the like button if you haven't done so already, I would greatly appreciate that. patreon.com/survival dispatch, free memberships. You get 50% of the content. Paid memberships, $9.99. You get exclusive content, behind the scenes content. I posted the Committee of 300 video today. It's the most deleted video, most censored video of all time. We'll see how long it stays up. That's for paying members. And if you have Signal on your phone, or you put Signal on your phone and you send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com after you install Signal with your phone number, we'll make sure you get an invite to that. That's turned into a very, very active group of people sharing information. And I didn't intend for it to go that way. The intention was to have a means to dispel some intel, get intel out there if regular channels were to go down. But I'm very happy with the way it's turned out. And I see some fantastic relationships forming in there. And just really happy that we were able to facilitate that. Other than that, we're done for tonight. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe. God bless America.
If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.